Hello and welcome to While You're at the Library. We all know that this is your favorite television show where a group of librarians sit around and tell you about our favorite books. So welcome to our living room. Come inside, sit down, make yourselves comfortable. Oh, you're already pretty comfortable. And we will start talking. I'm Catherine Poulter and I'm the children's librarian, and next to me is Kathann Hendricks. And what is your position at the library, besides sitting or walking or standing?
Position. I'm the young adult librarian and makerspace
coordinator.
There you go.
Very good.
And if you don't know what makerspace is, then you'll have to come to the library and find out.
That's right. Thank you. And Becky, tell us who you are and what you stand for.
I stand for the library.
Very good.
I'm the lead circulation librarian.
That's wonderful. And you also advise people in their reading, don't you?
I make several suggestions, yes.
Very good.
A lot.
And here's Trent.
Hello. I am a reference specialist. I especially specialize in Idaho history. I also am in collection development for certain parts of the collection. So I have a lot of things that I get to do at the library.
It's a great place to work and to visit, so come and visit us often. Trent, let's start with you. Tell us some of the things that you brought.
Okay, well, I know that we said that we would sit around and talk about books, but today I didn't bring one single book.
How about just materials?
So, yes. Something that we received at the library. This big, impressive red box is all of the studio recorded output of the opera singer Maria Callas. She was active in the musical scene from the late 40s through the mid 60s, and this is quite an impressive body of work. We have got over 20 different recorded operas, and we have got, I believe, 12 additional recitals that are recorded. They recently took the master tapes that were produced in the recording sessions, and they used the latest technology to restore them, to repair them, to clean up the sound without over-filtering the sound. And so these incarnations of her recorded output are pretty much as close to listening to the actual studio master tapes as you're going to get. And along with this set comes a marvelous book about Maria Callas and about the process that they used to remaster, and you get to see a lot of archival photos, some that have been held in an archive. You have interviews with people who worked on this project, or interviews with people who were there at the recording sessions when she actually recorded them.
Cool.
But some people wouldn't know who Maria Callas was. Once upon a time, she was a household name. The reason why a lot of people would know who she was because for a long time she was the mistress of Aristotle Onassis, the wealthy Greek shipping tycoon who then ended up marrying Jackie Kennedy. And that's how most people in America's households came to know her. But if you ever heard her voice, you would never forget it. It's a very, very distinctive voice, sometimes quite beautiful, sometimes quite not beautiful, but always used in the service of the drama of whatever she was singing. I have been listening to Maria Callas for more than half my life because I started when I was 15, which should give you some indication of how old I am. And yes, very soon these discs will be ready for checkout to our public.
Wonderful. One at a time or all together?
One at a time. We are repackaging them in more durable packaging because although these lovely cardboard sleeves are made to look like the original boxes for the records, they're not going to be terribly durable. So we are going to repackage them.
Using some of the
library stuff, but we will include the booklets that come along with the set, and we are also going to include the various CD sleeves that have the tracks listed on them.
Oh, good.
So that you won't just be lost in what you're listening to. And another thing is that a lot of times if you've never listened to an opera before and it's in a language you don't know, it's very advisable to listen with what is called a libretto, which is an Italian word for little book that basically gives the words of what the people are singing. And for us, we would have the original words with a side-by-side translation. And so you can find translations available online. We're also trying to figure out a way to make this disc available, because this is all of the librettos, all of them. But we have to figure out a way to make this available so people can just access it,
Right.
possibly through our website. But I'm very excited about this. I'm working on this project to make it go faster, and also because I love opera and I love Maria Callas. So,
How many hours worth of listening are you holding there in your hands?
well, if you think that every opera is about 2 hours long,
A lot.
hundreds of hours of listening.
Uh-huh.
And these days, given the technology and how cheaply we can obtain these, it's amazing the enjoyment that you can get for just pennies.
Uh-huh.
So,
And at the library.
and at the library, it's free.
Yeah, thank you. Oh,
Yes.
that's so exciting. That would be spending a significant portion of Maria Callas's life with her then.
Yes. We also actually have a book, which I guess I should have brought with me, called The Callas Legacy, where someone who knew her has gone through and analyzed everything that's ever been recorded, the studio stuff and the stuff that was recorded when she was on stage, and put that in the context of her life.
What was happening at the
What was
time.
happening. It's called The Callas Legacy by John Ardoin, also at our library.
Wonderful.
So.
Thank you.
Yes.
We'll come back to you in a minute.
Okay.
Becky,
All
what
right.
do you have there?
This book is called The Punch Escrow, and it has been on a lot of bestseller lists. It is going to be being made into a movie pretty soon.
Say the title again slowly.
The Punch Escrow.
Okay.
Okay. So, a lot of people say that if you like The Martian or Ready Player One,
Oh, good.
this is a book for you. So, it's all about teleportation.
Oh, I
And
wish
so-
that technology
I know.
existed.
But so the year is 2147,
Soon.
and teleportation is the safest way to travel, or so they say.
Unless you get
So
stuck.
Joel is going to travel to meet up with his wife, and they're going to go on like the second honeymoon. And so they're going to meet up in Costa Rica. But in the teleportation system, something goes wrong.
Of course.
Of course. There's a glitch. And there ends up being 2 copies of Joel. So Joel 1, which is the original, is still in New York. Joel 2 is in Costa Rica. The problem is his wife, Sylvia, works for the IT, which is the International Transport System. And she knows things about teleportation that other people do not.
Can she tell the fake from the real?
She can, because I don't want to give too much of the story away. She thought that he had completely been lost in the teleportation. And it takes all your little molecules and everything and like downloads them, and then you come over here and it re-energizes you. And so all of the copies of his molecules are here, and she pretty much reincarnates him in Costa Rica. Anyways, so this is obviously against the law to do this. And so suddenly they're being chased down. Both Joels end up meeting each other. Sylvia gets captured, and they both have to go together, work together to try to save her. So this...
Does Joel 2 have all of the same memories and everything?
He does.
Everything
Did Joel
exactly
1
the
know
same?
about Joel 2 to begin with?
No, he has to be told. He has to be told what happened and how it's going to put his wife in danger. So as they're on their way to try to save Sylvia, it raises a lot of truths and errors that have been happening with teleportation along the way for many years that have been covered up in one way or another. Anyways, a very interesting book. I will say, if you are sensitive to language, swearing. It does have a lot of that because Joel has a tendency to swear a lot. And because it's science fiction and it's got a lot of jargon that we don't know, it has footnotes. Throughout the entire book, there are footnotes.
Cool.
So when he's talking about nanotechnology, you can be like, wait, there's its footnote. Now I know what they're talking about. Or Band-Aids, which are given to you with a needle, and the Band-Aid happens to heal from the inside out instead of from the outside in, because that's the way they do things in 2147. So this one is an interesting one.
2147?
2147.
I will be dead by then.
Too late.
Maybe not.
Maybe they'll
Maybe not.
reincarnate
That's
you
true.
with teleportation.
Just be teleported.
I just
So-
want teleportation.
Yes, then we can visit all over the place in a matter of seconds.
Poland,
The
yes,
Punch
for example.
Escrow. So where does the title come from?
Gdansk.
I'm not going to tell you that.
Oh, we don't get to know that.
Yes, that's part of the story. So
Hmm.
there you go.
Great. Ooh, that's exciting.
It's a very different read, that's for sure.
I'll have a
Wow.
book later that kind of sort of relates to that.
Oh, good.
But first I want to talk about a different one. So I picked this one up before I left on a vacation. And this one is called Ultimatum. It's by K.M. Walton. It says, one decision will change both of their lives. And this is a story. And it's very sad. If you're at all emotional, it might
Why-
not be the right book for
Why
you.
do you like to read sad books,
I
Catherine?
don't. Sometimes they just kind of, grab my attention, and
mean-
then I can't put them down, and I want to know how it's going to
They
end.
just find her.
One of our old librarians, I asked her, and she said she likes that feeling of uncomfortableness.
I don't necessarily
Okay.
know. And when I finished, I'm like, last time when I actually was ready to talk about it a couple weeks ago, I'm like, "Phew, I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk about that because I'll probably just start crying or something." And only because of some, you start
bring
relating
into
things
a book,
personally. You're
then,
like, oh
yeah.
my gosh. But this is a story about two brothers, basically. Their mother has died in a bad car accident, and the story is told in alternating viewpoints, so it's one brother and then the other brother. They go back and they explain what has happened. Not only now have they lost their mother, but their father has died. At the beginning of the book, it says he has died of liver cancer because he was drinking too much, which had something to do with why their mother died. And without telling anything further about that, I'll just leave it at that. But Oscar and Vance are two very opposite brothers. They're I think they're like 9 or 10 months apart. Vance is the least emotional of the two of them, and he loves to party and plays lacrosse, and he's just really active, and his father really values him for that, and pushes him harder to be a stronger male. Oscar is very withdrawn, and he loves to draw, and he does a lot of drawing, and he just doesn't feel like he belongs in the family. He seeks his refuge in art, and his father picks on him for it. And when the father's alcoholism sends him into liver failure, the two boys have to make some decisions. And the story I think is really well written, not only about families and love and who loves, the father still loved the boys. He loved both
Yeah.
of the boys, and the mother did too. And it's about relationships and brothers and what brings them together. And it does discuss the father being in hospice, and I think that's probably where I went over the edge because I've had some experiences with that in the last couple of years.
Right, you have.
And it was very realistic in that respect. So anybody who needs to understand or wants to know something about what a person might be going through who's lost a loved one, or is having difficulties understanding a sibling that they don't relate to, I think this is a really good book for that. I thought there was a really good statement at the very end. One of the brothers says, or something like, "I'm your yin to your yang." So they need each other, and they find that out in the course of this story. So a little sad, but really makes you think. And
you.
teen books, that's what they're there for, is
Yeah.
to allow you to experience something without actually having to go through it, and to come to an understanding of other people's lives maybe, or else just to have something to relate to yourself.
Exactly.
So that's all I'm going to say about that one.
That's a very
And I
good
didn't cry.
analysis. Very good. Well, this book did kind of make me cry. It's a beautiful nonfiction true story about the pack horse librarians of Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
Back in the 1930s and into the 40s, during the Depression and right before the Second World War, before the United States was involved, the WPA project that was instituted by President Roosevelt hired women who lived in rural Kentucky to ride horses on a circuitous route, delivering books all through the hollows and hills and very small little areas of that state, to people who otherwise would never have the opportunity to read. And this went on for some years, and this book talks about some of those people. It shows photographs of the pack horse librarians, and it gives really beautiful stories about the significance that the books had to the people. Now, this reminded me, of course, of our little book wagon that we take to the parks and things, and certainly in Pocatello most people have access to books, and that's what we like. But in this area of Kentucky, so many people lived way up into the high hills, and maybe they never had the opportunity even to learn how to read. Some schools didn't have any books, and they longed for the time when the book women would come and bring books, and I just loved this. So this is called Down Cutchin Creek, The Pack Horse Librarians of Kentucky, and it's by Kathy Appelt, whom I know from other books that she's written, and Jeannie Canella Schmitzer. So beautiful stories, and yes, it made me
And it probably made them more appreciative of something that they didn't have ready access to. Where in Pocatello we have our book wagon, and we still have children who don't
have a lot
or don't read or don't access the library for whatever reason it is, and sometimes it's just because they know it's there, and they just sort of, people do. They say, well, I'll get there, and they don't, because it's there and it's easy. Or maybe for the kids, they can't get there, they have no way of getting there. So
that's why we want to go to where they are.
That's why we do our outreach, yes.
Exactly. So I loved this book, and I was really grateful for my friend Bobby who lent it to me. We need to get a copy ourselves. It's out of print now. But I read this and thought, oh, this is one to share. So
well, there's been some about foreign in other countries, the same type of thing.
Yes, there
children's
have been
books that we've got.
Biblioburo, and in Iceland I think they had some book bringers.
Bring them by boat.
So interesting. In Africa, everywhere. It's just amazing the lengths that people will go to give something to read and to get something to read. In this book, it talked about a woman who would walk 9 miles through all kinds of weather to go to the point where the book lady would be, because she couldn't go the 9 miles to get to her little house. So she would walk 9 miles, get the books, walk 9 miles back, and share them with her community.
Wow.
So amazing and dedicated. So I really liked that and thought I would share it with you. All right. Trent, you're up. Tell us about some more things that you have.
I'm up. Okay, well, lest anyone be afraid that all I'm interested in is music, we also recently acquired, and I'm trying to get these all together. There we go. Okay. We also recently acquired some DVDs about skiing One of these is Warren Miller's Storm. If you don't know who Warren Miller is, he is...
It's no wonder.
Yeah, right, exactly. He made a bunch of ski films, and the company that still bears his name continues to make ski films. And this one is called Steep. Without risk, there is no adventure. So if you're looking to watch people take lots of risks skiing, this is for you.
Don't even have to do it yourself.
I'm not a big sports movie watcher, but I actually have seen some of Warren Miller's films. I really like the poetry that he films with. You know, as opposed to things that are more action-oriented, all thrills, all chills. There's an artistry to Mr. Miller's films that sometimes he does, you know, communicate the excitement of going down a slope. Sometimes he's really good about, you know, getting you excited, and other times he takes the camera and it's like poetry, watching these people ski and watching them interact with that natural environment. And so there's also a relaxing element to watching a Warren Miller ski film. So I'm really excited about these that we've got in the library. So skiing. We also have some films about surfing. Now, The Endless Summer is the quintessential surf film. I think this is the surf film that started the surf film craze. You know, not the Annette Funicello beach blanket party craze, but the wow, these guys can surf craze. So The Endless Summer we have, and I think we got the second film in that series. Also a film called Step Into Liquid. This is about people who like to ride the really, really big waves. It looks very thrilling. I once tried to water ski and I could never get up on the skis. Waterboarding is fun though. So I would imagine it feels kind of, kneeboarding.
Waterboarding,
waterboarding, not fun. Kneeboarding, yes. But that feeling of having the water underneath you.
Right, riding on it.
And growing
having
up
snow under
in
you.
the Moreland area, we also had a sport called canal surfing,
Oh,
where we would tie a big piece of
Canlets?
plywood
Oh,
to one of the canal bridges, and then you would ride the bridge on the canal current. I mean the board on the canal current.
holding onto the bridge.
You could tie something that you would hold on to the bridge as well. So in a way, it's kind of like water skiing or kind of like surfing, where you're literally supported by the water.
Yeah.
But I'd be kind of curious to try this out where these people are doing that. And then finally, in the sports category, we also have a film called Out of the Blue, a film about life and football at Boise State University.
Wow.
So, as we all know, the Boise State football team had quite a run there for a while, and this was filmed right during that period. So it's local, it's exciting, it's just a few hours away drive, but you can come to the library and obtain it. You don't have to drive to Boise to experience BSU excitement. You can experience it right here.
That's great.
So we've got some good sports films at the library for you folks to come enjoy.
Thank you very much.
Becky. So every year in the fall, we celebrate what we call Banned Books Week, and that's current right now. So September 24th through the end of the week. So we've had a display at the library up, banned books, challenged books. We do not ban the books. I always like to make sure people know that. We don't ban the books. We celebrate our freedoms to read.
Anything you want.
Anything you want. It's up to you. If you don't want to read it, you don't need to read it. If you want to read it, it's available. And a couple that often surprise people I brought with me today. One of them is The Bridge to Terabithia. One of the things you should know about this one is it won the Newbery Award in 1978. And it was also challenged because it contained swear words. Challenged again because people thought it promoted witchcraft. Challenged again because of vulgar language. And challenged again because it's violent. So, not just one hit against it, it has several hits. It's a beautiful story. A little bit sad, but beautiful story.
I don't remember any violence, but
That wasn't what stood out in your mind.
it's not the part that
It's not that.
affected
It's
me
not.
most. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so another one that might surprise you,
Charlotte's Web.
Charlotte's Web.
Why?
It's sad.
It was challenged because it has talking animals.
Oh, okay.
Because it has talking animals?
Yes.
And
because
animals
Because
don't
animals
really
don't
talk.
talk.
Well, even in the Bible, there was that
Yes.
animal that talked to its owner.
But there
Yeah,
are certain
there was?
religions.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh.
There are certain religions that if
Forget
you
which
have
one.
talking animals, it is against God. So that's why this one is on the list too.
And it had an award too, wasn't it, a
It
Newbery?
was a
It was a Newbery honor.
Honor,
Yeah.
okay.
it
Newbery
won in the
honor.
year that The Secret of the Andes was the actual winner.
Thank you.
Wow.
Okay.
I know.
Then another one,
My favorite book.
A Wrinkle in Time,
Yes.
which is also a Newbery winner in 1963. One of the things I think is interesting about this book is it has been on the banned book list because we keep track. American Library Association keeps track of any book that has a challenge against it. And this one has been on that list every decade since it has been printed.
What
So
is so
let me tell you, I
perturbing
wrote
about
down
that
a
one?
few
Oh,
of
she'll
the
let us
things.
know. We will know.
Witchcraft,
Of course.
demons, crystal balls, religious beliefs, and non-religious beliefs,
Or lack of.
lack of, objected by using names of Jesus, great philosophers, and scientists. So, if you don't know the general gist of this story, there are 3 children that are going to fight the darkness, which is the evil that's coming across our world. But they actually are going to go and fight it as they're going to go and
Teleported,
save.
even.
No, they,
Yes.
They
that's what I was going to say.
Tesseract.
They go on a wrinkle. They're going to go save the kid's father,
Mhm.
Meg and Charles Wallace,
And Calvin.
and Calvin, the neighbor kid.
Calvin.
And this.
But this book, I got really excited because my book group is actually doing this for their October book, Wrinkle in Time. And we have the regular copy, we have an audio book, and I didn't know it, but we also have the graphic novel, which I had not seen the graphic novel form. So see, I've opened it up to the picture that this person is transforming into a different creature. Amazing pictures.
Shocking.
Everything is in the 3 colors, black, blue, and white, throughout the entire book. Black, blue, and white. But it really follows the book well. It really does.
And does
So-
it draw pictures in your mind as you're reading it?
A little bit, but not as much as the original book.
Because it
I
has
would
it
say.
already portrayed.
Yeah. The really cool thing about the audio book that we have is it's the author herself that's reading it, which is pretty awesome, I think. So then you know she's reading it the way she wants it portrayed. So like there's Miss What's It, Miss Who, and Miss Witch, and one of them draws out her name, or draws out anything she says. So she'll be like, "I said you should go," and that's how the author reads it. And if you actually pick up the book, it takes it and extends the letters a lot, so you know it's supposed to be read like that. But every time the author does that, it just makes me laugh. I'm like, that's the way she pictured it. That is awesome.
And there
they
it
have the
is.
little echoing going. It's fantastic. So that's A Wrinkle in Time, whichever version you prefer. So,
Wow, thank you.
like I said, we don't ban it. We celebrate the right to read.
There's a copy of A Wrinkle in Time currently on display on the 2nd floor. That is a first edition and was signed by the author.
To the children of Pocatello.
Wow, that's
To the
pretty
children of
awesome.
Pocatello.
Children of Pocatello.
Yes.
It's amazing.
And there is a movie coming out next year.
Oh boy, oh boy.
So exciting,
Read it now before the movie comes out.
because that is great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, that is your favorite book, isn't it?
It is.
Catherine?
I always say that's my favorite book. I thought there was another one I knew that was coming out as a movie that I was bringing with me, but I don't know where it is.
Well, tell us
I'll
about
tell you-
the book that you do
I'll
have
tell you
there.
about this book because whether we have it or not, I'm not sure. We do have other books by this author, Andrew Dowdy. They are the ultimate guidebooks to various places, and they all have a similar type of cover. I saw that we had some new ones that were ultimate guide to I don't know what countries, but we may have one for the Big Island. Okay, so here's my story.
Yes, tell us your story.
I'd never been to Hawaii before, and in my mind it was just Hawaii. There's Hawaii, it's out there. It's an island, whatever. But no, it's more than one island. And this is only one of those islands. So I recently had the opportunity to go to 2 of those islands. The Big Island, which is the newest island and has active volcanic activity. Didn't get to stay there very long because I then went to the youngest island at this point called Hawaii.
Okay.
There is another island in the works right now.
Under the ocean?
Yeah, it's coming out. They know there's another one that's developing. I don't remember exactly where it is, but I know that there's another, and there will continue to be more because as the oldest islands get older, they will start deteriorating, and you can see on the land when you're on the Big Island, it's a lot of basalt, a lot of volcanic. You have different colored types of sand, like you have a red sand beach and a green sand beach and a black sand beach, and that's just the different ages, I guess, of the actual lava has its, gotten older. And then when you get to this island, this is known as the, I want to say the Garden Island, but it's just very lush and it's jungle-like. There are actually two sides to the islands. The east side, I have to think about this again. The east side is the side that is usually more lush and gets more rain. So if you are on the Big Island, it would be Hilo. That's the city. And if you are on the west side, it would be Kona.
The leeward side.
And so we stayed in Kona for a couple of days, and then we went to Kauai and stayed on the other side of the island. So we were on the more wet side of the island. And really, when it rains, at least the time of year we were there, it rains and then it quits, and it mostly rains at night. But when it rains hard. And it was so interesting to see the contrast of the island, driving all the way up the east side of the coast, all the way as far as you could go to the north, and seeing how lush and green it was, and then driving around the other side of the island all the way up the west side of the coast as far as you could go. And you cannot drive entirely around that island because there's the Nepali cliffs in between. The only way you can get there is by hiking or by boat. And so we did get a chance to go and see the Nepali cliffs by boat, like a, what do you call it, a zodiac raft, which was interesting. But this is a great book. This series is a great series for helping you to make decisions about what you want to do and see. It tells you about the different parts of the island, the basics about Hawaii in general, the language. I learned, and I've struggled a lot with how you pronounce some of the Hawaiian names, or most of the Hawaiian names. So every syllable is pronounced.
Every letter is
Every
pronounced.
letter. So and I don't think there was anything with R's in it, as I recall. I don't remember any.
Yeah.
But a lot of ka, la. So if it's an A sound, or it's an A, it's an ah sound. If it's an E, it's an sound. If it's an I, it's an E sound. If it's O, it's O, and if it's U, it's U. So some of these names are like, this long, and you're trying to pronounce every single vowel. There's like a little tongue twister there. So I thought that was fascinating. So I would be riding around in the car with my husband and trying to pronounce, tell him where we're going next. I've got my phone out, and I'm like, okay, you got to turn right at this one, and I'd say it. And I'd say it like 3 different times, and then I'd spell it. He's like, don't even bother, just tell me when to turn. I go, well, I told you, I spelled it out, and I told you. He goes, but you pronounced it 3 different ways. I'm like, oh, shoot, I was trying. Places to go, tells you about the beaches. It's just, the guy, he tries to tell you about all the little nooks and crannies and some of the local hangouts and food places that you might not know from other guidebooks. So this is a great one. Somebody recommended it to me, so I got it. This is a great one for...
And you had a wonderful experience.
I did. It was too short, and now I know that I should have gone to Hawaii a lot earlier.
But you have the rest of your life.
Never discount something. Never say, that's not worth going to. Actually, I love to travel, and I wish I could do more of it. Wish I could afford more of it, and going to Hawaii is rather expensive. Interestingly enough, they were talking about that today on the radio, about the shipping, helping the people in Puerto Rico, and they changed the shipping, I can't think of what the term is, but where it allows other countries to come in and bring their ships in. We've had what's the Jones Act or something, and they're lifting it for Puerto Rico right now because they cannot get supplies fast enough from the United States. And it does impact places like Hawaii and Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and Alaska. So something to consider, that maybe they need to look at. They would only allow ships in that had been built in the United States, I guess. But that's a whole nother story. But it's interesting that here these are, you know, states and territories of the United States, and they're not being treated as equally as people right here on the mainland. Just saying.
Thank you for that insight.
Just so you add that in there.
Thank you. Well, I have a nonfiction book to share with you, and it's even a grown-up nonfiction book. It's called Conquering the Electron. It's by Derek Chung and Eric Brach. This book is about the history of people's interaction with electricity, how they came to discover that it existed, all sorts of things. It also talks about the people that were involved in the discoveries. This is these are some of the early pioneers with electricity, and it's so interesting. Oh, this is a picture of the very first X-ray ever taken. The person who discovered X-rays noticed that his film that had been in a strongbox had been exposed, even though he hadn't even put it into the light. So he put a plate down, had his wife put her hand on the plate, and with darkness everywhere, he turned on his X-ray machine, and it took an X-ray of her hand. She saw it and thought it spelled her impending doom, so she didn't like it, because she thought it showed that she would be a skeleton one day. And but really, of course, we know that X-rays do help doctors and other people see the bones without having to cut a person and see what's happened to their bones. So this interesting book is about the geniuses, visionaries, egomaniacs, and scoundrels who built our electronic age. And it talks about it in ways that I can understand, which is good, because I really don't know that much about electricity, but I want to learn. Of course, I want to learn everything, but oh, it's so interesting. What happened to Thomas Edison after he invented the different things, the light bulb and the phonograph, things like this. Here's Edison in 1878 working on his phonograph, and just fascinating little stories and histories about these people, and how really new all of this is, and how so much was discovered only by guessing or mistakes or serendipity. And so that shows me how many more things there probably are that we don't even know about, like teleportation. So I really liked this book, Conquering the Electron. It was originally written in Chinese, and then Eric Brach and the author translated it into English, and it's really interesting. Very good. So tell us some more, Trent.
Well, I'm fascinated by Chinese literature that's been translated into English. That's awesome. Well, speaking of translations,
Yes.
In addition to audio versions of operas, I've also been trying to provide us some visual representations of opera as well. Because as much fun as opera is to listen to, it's even more fun to watch, especially on a DVD player that gives you the option of putting subtitles below the action, so you don't have to sit there with the book and read while you experience the music. You get to watch what's going on stage, and you get to know what's going on stage because they've translated it there for you. And some of the things that we've brought in are considered fairly central works to the operas that are regularly performed, things like Puccini's La Bohème. This is a film of a production that was done in Australia in 1993 by the same gentleman who created Moulin Rouge, the film Moulin Rouge, Strictly Ballroom, version of Romeo and Juliet with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes. The same director directed this version of La Boheme, updated the action into the 1950s, and made it very relatable. So this is a very good production.
Keeping all the music the same.
Oh yes, they didn't change a note of Puccini's score. They just updated the location. That's all they did.
And the costumes.
And the costumes. So it's really quite a good film. The tenor is fantastic. The whole cast is fantastic, but the tenor is especially impressive. We also have Verdi's Aida. This is a film of the production at the Metropolitan Opera from the late 80s through the 90s. Very good production. And then we have some things, also Mozart's Così fan tutte. Mozart operas are usually very central to the performing tradition of opera. But we've also got some things that range a little further afield, like Verdi's Don Carlos.
Oh, good.
Yes. This was the last work that Verdi wrote for the Paris Opera. And when you wrote for the Paris Opera in the middle of the 1800s, you had to write works that were in 5 acts, that had a ballet. They were huge, gargantuan. They were the action films of their time, basically, with all the special effects and all the things. This had to be visually impressive as well as musically impressive. But when Verdi came to write this opera, yes, he included as much spectacle as he thought he could get away with, but he wrote a very intimate drama about the conflict between personal desire and civic duty, and it was occurring at the time of the Inquisition, and so the church was a big factor in telling people what to do. It's a heartbreaking opera. A version of Hamlet, written by Ambroise Thomas, also for Paris, a grand opera. Some of the most fascinating singing from soprano Natalie Dessay. She does a wonderful mad scene, Ophelia goes crazy. Well, she gets to go crazy while singing. And the action that they did on stage is very imaginative to show the disintegration of her mind. She's a very good singer and a very good actress. And the baritone who plays Hamlet, Simon Keenlyside, he also does a masterful job showing the various psychological states of Hamlet while singing. If any opera lovers have heard of Jonas Kaufmann, we have a version of Carmen with him as Don José, and the Carmen is Anna Caterina Antonacci, which is a very Italian-sounding name, but again, a very, very good production out of the Royal Opera House at Covent Garden in London. Last couple things. This isn't technically opera, but Rodgers and Hammerstein's Carousel. This is a version that was semi-staged. A lot of times productions are getting semi-stagings these days, where you have performers that are out in front of an orchestra, and it's an orchestral concert but with singers and action. And this is actually a highly recommended version of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Carousel. If you've ever seen the film, it's kind of disappointing. Yes, you've got Shirley Jones and Gordon MacRae, and visually it's very impressive, but they made changes to Rodgers and Hammerstein's original concept for this show, and it kind of alters the story, the emotional balances of the story, and you don't get that with this.
That's
you have the original
Rodgers
version
and
of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Carousel, and it helps you understand the work a little better. It's a difficult work to understand. And lastly, something I'm kind of excited about, the Italian composer Gaetano Donizetti, very prolific Italian opera composer in the early 1800s. He wrote operas about a bunch of different subjects, but throughout his career he kind of liked to go back to English subjects. And so he, at various points, wrote about queens that had something to do with Henry VIII. And so the first one that he wrote is an opera called Anna Bolena. This version stars one of the big sopranos on the opera scene right now, Anna Netrebko. She plays the title role. This is a fantastic production of this opera, and it's an opera that a lot of people, even opera lovers, don't really know very well, but it's a fantastic, fantastic opera. You should check this one out. Later in his career, he wrote one called Maria Stuarda, which is Mary Stuart. She was in competition for the crown with Elizabeth I. And this opera contains a scene which didn't actually happen in history, but makes for really good theater, where Mary Stuart faces Elizabeth face to face, and she calls her an illegitimate daughter, but she uses the B word instead. And in its time, that was quite scandalous, which is why it never actually got performed in its original form.
Ah.
And it's only now that we've been able to do scholarship and do some digging. We have the original version. And this is also production out of the Metropolitan Opera with, again, Joyce DiDonato, who is another one of those prominent singers. And so we have two of the three queens. Beverly Sills was famous for performing the three queens at the New York City Opera. And we are shortly going to finish our trilogy as well.
Very
so
nice.
lots of opera. I've taken up too much time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's nice to have
learned a lot.
someone who's very
Yeah.
passionate about it. Thank you. Becky, we have time for some more.
I'm just impressed with how he says the names. Those Italian names. Before we get any farther, I want to make sure everybody knows we have a book sale coming up.
Yes.
Oh, it's
Yay.
sorry, it hasn't happened yet.
Yes. So I brought the dates with me, so I wouldn't
good.
forget. So it goes for a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so October 12th, 13th, and 14th. Library hours while we're open, except for Saturday where it's only 9 to 4. Prices start at $2 for hardbacks, $1 for paperbacks, and then on Saturday it goes down a little bit where it's $1 for paperbacks and 50 cents for paperbacks.
$1 for hardbacks,
Yeah,
paperbacks.
$1 for hardbacks, 50 cents for paperbacks.
Very nice.
Anyways, awesome. October 12th, 13th, and 14th. So don't forget that.
Great.
And then another fun thing that we have going on is there's a lot
I
of
hid that rock.
hiding of rocks going along in Pocatello. It's been going on all summer, but I just wanted to make sure people, our viewers, know that the library has what we call prize rocks, and we have 3 of these. And if you find one of these prize rocks, written on the back, it says to bring it to us, and you get a prize.
Can we tell what the prize is?
Sure, you want to tell them?
It's a free book.
A free book, surprise, surprise.
And I hid that rock, and I met the kid who found it.
Yeah, that's great. He was pretty excited. So, and as they come back, we go out and re-hide them. So there's always 1 or 2 or 3 out there to be found. So
Ooh.
make sure you take opportunity to look around. If you see something bright red, bring it in.
Get a book.
And get a book. So, and then of course I have to share a fun picture book.
Oh, yes.
Because we read a lot of picture books in my home. And this one, the title caught my attention, and so we had to have it. This book just ate my dog. And I was like, wait, it's usually the other way around.
Yeah.
At least that's what we see at the library. So it's a really cute book that it starts out. This girl knows that she's in a book, and she's going to take her dog for a walk. And as they go to cross the page,
Something happened.
the dog gets eaten by the book.
Oh no.
He totally disappears. I love the illustrations in this book. They did such a good job. So as she gets more people to help, more people disappear.
Oh no, it's eating more than dogs.
Yes.
Poor little Ben goes into the binding of the book, I guess you'd call that. A balloon escapes. They have fire trucks and ambulances that come, blah, blah, blah. And then, even she disappears.
Uh-oh.
But it doesn't end there. A note comes out, and you get to read it, and it tells you to shake the book. And I love this because it involves you to shake the book so things start to come out of the crease.
Shake and shake and shake.
Shake and shake. And of course, shake a little more. And everything's back to normal, almost. So, really fun book, interactive, I think, that kids can read along with their parents.
Oh, that's a good
I love
story.
picture books.
So-
They're fun.
This is one of our new picture books. The book that just ate my dog. So,
Thank you. Oh, that's a good
Cool.
one. Cathan.
All right, I'm going to share, we talked about Banned Books Week, and that ends the end of this week. We will also have another fun celebration coming up, and it happens in October every year. Sponsored by the American Library Association, we always have Teen Read Week, and that is October 8th through 14th. And this year's theme is Unleash Your Story. Basically, anything goes. So,
Like that book where she took the dog off the leash.
maybe. So what we're going to do with that is have a grab bag of what we call stealth activities that I'll have listed you can choose from to do, and they could be anything from make a little Sculpey clay figure from a favorite book. I forget what some of the other ones I was choosing.
You have a lot of good ideas.
Do book poetry, spine label book poetry. So you take a spine label or spine
A book.
title, I guess it is, off of a book, and you make a poem out of your spines, the titles on the spine of the book. Several other things, and also I will have some papers, and I actually currently have them out on the table in front of my desk, that ask you to list a fun read, something that you've read that you really liked. Give me a short statement saying why reading is fun to you, and also name some books that you have read. They say during Teen Read Week, but I'm willing to accept that, anytime now through October. For each entry that you make, each title that you list, each comment that you make, and these comments are ones that I'd like to post on our Facebook page, they ask us to have these things on social media. So I'm not asking kids to actually post them on social media, because I know some kids, 6th grade and 7th or 8th are not allowed to. So I'd be happy to do that. All I'm asking for is a first name and a grade. So I can say, this person said this about a book, why reading is fun to them. For each of those things that you do, I will give you a raffle ticket for a chance to win a free book. We like to give away free books.
Great.
And they're new books, and they're good books. But by doing these things, and if I record this and report it back to our state library, our library will in turn receive up to 12 free books, current hardback titles.
Good.
And if I can include those in my collection, I will, if I don't already have them. If not, they will be given away at other times for free books. So be sure and be part of Teen Read Week. Additionally, we will have a teen Halloween after-hours party. And this year, I'm going to do another breakout. We call it breakout because we have access to games they call breakout games, in which you solve a series of clues to help you unlock locks on boxes. Or else the locks might all be on one hasp on one box, but you have to do this within a set period of amount of time, like about 45 minutes, in order to complete.
Or the zombies will come, or
like
whatever.
We've done zombies and we've done robot apocalypse, and this time it's going to be based on Edgar Allan Poe and the Telltale Heart, and we're doing an investigative thing to find out if this person was sane or insane in the book. So we'll be doing that. It's an after-hours thing, October 27th from 6:30 to 8. Once the game is complete, we will have refreshments, creepy refreshments.
There's always food involved.
And come dressed in your favorite Halloween costume. I'm sure there will be some other things as well. We'll do door prizes and stuff. Yeah, we want to make sure we do something for that. And should be lots of fun. We've got lists of books right now for the Teens Top 10. I'll have 20 books that I'll either have books out there you can check out, or at least pictures of them. And they're encouraging teens to vote on those during Teen Read Week.
Oh, to have these
to narrow the list
books
down to 10.
Okay.
And some of those titles are Scythe, I think, by Scott Westerfeld, and Love and Gelato by Jenna Evans Welch. Oh, actually, it was Neil Schusterman that wrote Scythe.
Okay.
And I think I've talked about that before. The Art of Being Normal by Lisa Williamson. The Sun is Also a Star, which has been really popular lately, by Nicola Yoon. So there's lots of good books on that list.
Are they all published within a certain year?
I think they have to be a couple years old. I don't think any of these are really brand new.
Okay. But well read enough that people
Yeah,
know
and so if you haven't read them yet, Lady Midnight by Cassandra Clare, she wrote a lot of books that people have read. Other series. So I have a whole list of them. I'll have descriptions of them. If you can't get them right away, you can get them at another time. But if you can vote on those online, you can be part of the group that narrows that down to the top 10 list.
And does it have to be a teen reader?
It's supposed to be, yes.
Okay. but
Yeah.
other people are allowed to
Yeah,
read
everybody
them.
can read the books, but
Good.
the voting is for the teens.
Okay.
And we try to keep you busy.
Great, thank you. That
And
was
there's
good.
like more books here, but I'm working on them.
we
won't
could
talk about any more sad
all
books.
day about books. In fact, if you come to the library, we will talk to you about books. And we'd like to hear what you have
And
to say
listen
too.
to what you have to say about
Yes,
books.
exactly. We'd like to hear what you think, because we just have one opinion each of us, and you have one too, so share that with us. Well, we'll sign off now, but join us again next month when we come back to your living room and talk about books and other resources.
And other activities
That's right.
and programs and everything.
Exactly. Thank you so much, and goodbye.